Okay, so I'm just wanting to quickly demonstrate a little bit of color theory, I suppose, around painting flesh tones, and in this particular case, I'm just because she's so white, I don't want her to be. Again, like the silk dress, I'm wanting her skin to have a degree of luminosity and to let other colors, subtle colors, breathe through, rather than just painting a solid white arm. Um, Part of that is picking up bounce color, and I'm trying to sample colors from off her dress and mixing in some of the background red subtly as well. But something that I'm also doing as well, just to try to use color to define form, is by brushing a little bit of cooler color, a green color, into the shadow and underside areas of her arm. Just because, again, because I'm wanting to preserve this sense of a white, to give an appearance of quite a strongly white arm. I'm using the similar trick to what I was doing with the face, where I'm using a color rather than a tone, so much to help model form. So I'm just popping a little bit of a brush of green into the underside of the arm there. So I'm just going to talk briefly around prop design, which is something obviously we do a lot of working as concept designers in the film industry, and something which I suppose I enjoy designing for my illustrations as well. Um, Obviously, it would have been very easy just to have grabbed a sword off the internet and just sort of slapped it into her hand and called it done. But again, there's so much opportunity to have so much fun and to enrich your illustration by going to the effort of designing something specifically for your character. I mean, this is her sword, and it's not been bought from the local market. It's been made for her, and so I'm actually designing and customizing a sort of a typical Chinese sword and turning it into something that is now the White Fox's sword. Um, so unlike, say, a Japanese blade, a samurai blade, this particular form of Chinese sword is a double-edged sword with a long, straight, whippy blade. And again, so it's my choice of using this particular kind of sword is to emphasize to the viewer that this is not a Japanese character, this is a Chinese character. Um, and I'm certainly thinking about what motifs and design I could integrate into the sword that would suit the look of the character. One of the first things I established was that I was very keen to give the hilt of the sword to be made out of ivory or bone. Probably ivory. I mean, the Chinese were known for exquisite sculpture and carving in ivory, and ivory is actually a common a common substance to be for sword hilts to be made out of. It's a practical as well as cosmetically pleasing material to build from. So, and of course, being white, it ties in nicely with the character. So again, I'm trying to not, if I didn't want to sort of have a garish coloured hilt which would pull your eye down to your hand, I'm trying to again work it in a way that's appropriate, but also doesn't attract too much attention. I have decided that I'll probably play with adding in some kind of tassel, which could be quite brightly coloured later on. So I don't want that to compete with the handle. I've been working up a little fox pommel, silver fox pommel on the hilt. That's probably a little bit more of a European influence there, I think. But it's just a bit of fun. I haven't actually spent too much time because this is such a tiny detail in the overall size of the illustration, it's one of those things where you don't want to spend too much time coming up with something. So it's a little dingy looking, but by the end of it, I kind of get it to work reasonably well. And again, it's just a nice little detail that ties back to her character. And I think the just again going back to while we're working on the hands here, just going back again to having good reference. If you really want hands to look really great, getting those muscles and tendons to pop, getting some good reference is a huge help. One little cheat that I'll admit to on this particular sword as well, and I'll do it quite a lot just as a time-saving device. I'll often grab a photograph off the internet, and going under the filter option for Photoshop, there's a function called Find Edges, which essentially reduces the photograph down to a line drawing, and then I'll grab, quite crudely, just grab that and erase around it and just grab the line drawing of the sword and transform it and drop it into place, mostly as a placeholder. I mean, it just, in this particular case, I tend to design a lot with paint rather than sketching, so really all I needed was the proportions and the basic form of a Chinese sword, and I could get that from a photograph basically, with fine edges. I wouldn't put the photograph in there and paint over it. I suppose that's just something I'm not that comfortable doing. I still prefer to paint it up myself so that I'm getting my colors matching to my environment. And ultimately I don't like introducing photographs into my paintings, though certainly there's a time and a place for it, depending on the job. But as you can see here, I'm just completely remodeling the hilt, just playing around with shapes, and then once I like the look of a shape, I'll refine that down into greater detail. And thank God for Photoshop. The free transform tool is your friend. You can solve so many problems, and experiment with things doing that. That's probably the obviously if you're a meticulous draftsperson, you'll have solved those problems by getting a very tight sketch in from the start. But I tend to let my paintings evolve and just play with paint.